And yeah, I think everybody's really pumped about today, actually. I think this is going to be a good one just because it's something I feel like we can use it, or I feel like I'm going to use it, if you see what I mean. I saw David speak back in November, and I saw him at the Tech Ability um, conference that happened where was it this time? I'm going to get the place wrong. I want to say Leeds, but I actually think that's wrong.
Nottingham.
So that's it, Nottingham. Oh, thank you, David. At Nottingham. And it was really good. There was lots of really good stuff that happened that day, but I particularly liked David's chat because it was grounded in just literally using something to help students in the classroom. And it seemed to really work for teachers, students, just in general. And I really liked it. So I'm not going to say much more about it than I really liked it. And so I asked David if he would come today and share that same kind of talk and experience with us and our community. So, um, so I'm not really going to say much more about that. Hopefully, you will be inspired. I'm sure you will. And we'll have the usual section afterwards. There'll be time for questions after David's spoken. If you have any questions, please fire them into the chat and we'll round them up and we'll tackle them for Q&A after David's presentation. And then we'll just have, as we like to say, a good old chat because it's a subject that I think we could get a lot of mileage out of in terms of how could we use it. I'd really like to hear what other people think that they would use it for in terms of the things they would do. So yeah, without anything else, David Curran from Moonhall, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. And it would be yeah, it'd just be fantastic to hear what you have to tell us today. So I'll be quiet now and David, you can take over.
A big intro. Oh my word, I got a lot to live up to. Thank you, Laura. Yeah. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming along today. Yeah, as spoken about. So 25 years as a teacher. Started off as a design technology teacher. Worked in careers as well. So I've set up 2 careers programs at 2 schools. I spent 18, 19 years in state education, and then this is my 5th year at Moonhall School down in Reigate. In Surrey, and we're a dyslexic specialist school. So we've got about 200 students from year 3 to year 11. We follow a mainstream education curriculum. And then 5 years ago, our head teacher, Michelle Catterson, who is head of the board of governors, head of the board for a British Dyslexia Association, decided or saw the advantages of assistive technology. So taking the assistive technology out of the IT lessons and having a discrete 1 hour a week. So our seniors all have 1 hour a week and they have their own personal devices. And then our juniors have it on rotation every half term. And again, they've got access to laptops as well. So when I'm speaking, I say, yeah, all our students are dyslexic, additional sort of ADHD or autism as well, kind of mixed in there as well. So when I spoke about accessibility, it was looking at some of the different ways we've looked and introduced sort of how our students can access learning, but it's also helped us as teachers as well. I think that's really, really important. We've kind of gone on the journey with them with assistive technology, with 1 hour a week on timetable, doing text to speech, speech to text. We do mind mapping, we do touch typing, and then also we build the careers program in there. So our year 11s have used their assistive technology and AI to help look for college places, to help with their applications, to help with interviews, for example. We've built our careers program into that as well. We've also built our AI program, so it's very, very sort of convenient and very, very handy. And we've seen the sort of the benefits for supporting our ND students that generative AI has brought. And in the last, three and a bit years, so November 2022, when ChatGPT came out, AI sort of struck the mainstream and we were allowed to use it. The general unwashed, we were allowed to use it. So yeah, we've kind of been, I hate the word experts. Experts is definitely not a description of me or us, but we're definitely early adopters of generative AI. We started off with ChatGPT because we could. Obviously, lots of safeguarding rules have changed since then. So we still use ChatGPT with our year nines and above with parental consent. I'll dip into ChatGPT because, like I say, we've been on the journey with our students. We've learned from our students. Students have learned from us. And then I'll move on to the reason why we use dedicated chatbots. So we now have dedicated chatbots on the MindJoy platform, which is the reason why I was at Techability. But I'm hoping that if I kind of show you how we got there, a little sort of condensed version of our 3.5 year journey, there might be a few little takeaways. And even if chatbots aren't for you, it might be something that you can take away and use for you or use for your students or your young people that you work with. Right, that's a lot of chat. Normally, I wouldn't sort of disappear behind a PowerPoint. However, yeah, I've got one because I'm not employed by MindJoy. However, they are sending me off very nicely to an AI conference not this weekend, next weekend in Bucharest. So in true Blue Peter style, here's one we prepared earlier. If I go into share screen and I'm going to sort of dip in and out of this PowerPoint, yeah, so this is us. This is me. I'm David Curran, Moonhall School, Reigate. I also do independent work as well, and quite often we like these sort of little cartoons. So yeah, the little guy in the wheelchair, please could you shovel the ramp? Obviously snow in the way. The caretaker with the best will and intention. All these other kids are waiting to use the stairs. When I get through shoveling them off, then I'll clear the ramp for you. And as the guy says, but if you shovel the ramp, we can all get in. So we're very, very.
Yeah. I'm sorry to interrupt. I can't see your screen, I'm afraid, David. I don't know if that's the same for others.
Aha, right. I missed a click. I'm used to Teams. Aha, there we go. Are we in now? Sorry. Our amazing Edward set me up there, and then I messed it all up. So yeah, the guy in the wheelchair.
It's working now.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you so much. Yeah, so that's kind of our way of looking at assistive technology. It's to be able to help. It's to be able to support. It's never to replace. So our assistive technology works alongside our literacy program, and it's to help support our ND learners. Right. We won't look at that bit. However, we will look at this bit. These are a few of our MindJoy chatbots. These are dedicated chatbots, and I'll move on to those in a few little minutes. But yeah, we've got careers chat bot, our futures bot, which was nominated for a CDI. We've got subject chatbots as well. So these are all student facing. We've got SEN support as well, which are more staff facing. And then we've got teacher resource creation bots as well. So yeah, we can see we kind of use them all over the place. Assistive technology down the bottom, plus AI, plus human in the building. Never, never, never. We must never make sure that we lose that sort of human interaction with our students, and also use what we know in order to be able to use to create these chatbots. Yeah, and that gives amazing opportunities for all our learners. Right, let's see. Why a bespoke chatbot? So we started using ChatGPT. Obviously, a lot of our students struggle with reading load, with confidence, information overload. So simple things like ChatGPT, if you've used any large language models, and that like loads of platforms out there, like I say, I'm mentioning one in particular because that's the one that we went on the journey with. It's easy enough to sort of use a worksheet and then we can rewrite it for a different reading age, or we can break up large text and ask it to rewrite it with bullet points. So that sort of helped our students when they were revising. Standard careers tools or subject revision sites quite often for our students at the time. And again, technology's moved an awful lot in these three and a bit years. They were quite often not accessible for our dyslexic learners for that text to speech or speech to text. Our students needed short, clear, low pressure support, yeah, but more importantly, that they could use it independently. I'm quite fortunate. We've got about sort of 8, 10, 12 students in our class, but I do remember sort of teaching 32, 34 students in a workshop, in a DT workshop, and trying to get sort of 16 and 18-year-old boys to do coursework. Very, very difficult to sort of get them to draw and then write. But if I had got them to make models and then took a photograph and booked out a computer room, they would quite happily sit and then talk over and dictate their information and their thoughts and their ideas. So that's kind of where I came from. And it's given our students their own ownership, their independence. We've also found a chatbot gives private, safe, judgment-free entry point, and I'll come back to that more in the future, in sort of towards the end of this. Right, let's dip out of this. Again, like I say, I talked about ChatGPT. We use we're a Microsoft school. We've got Gemini as well, so we've got a Google for Education for staff. We've got Claude that I use quite nicely, but I say ChatGPT. First and foremost, if you're using this and you're using it on a personal device, please go into your settings, go into your data control, and make sure your training data is turned off. We don't want our private personal information. We shouldn't be putting personal information on there, but we definitely don't want the things that we've created for work leaking out onto the internet. We might be infringing intellectual property laws as well there. So make sure if you're using these large language models that we turn off the training data. That's the first bit. When we first started, we would have sort of year 11 students, and they would say, help me look for something when I leave school. Okay. This was our first sort of, let's say, going back about 3 years. It's very normal in year 10, year 11 to feel unsure. What we have noticed is when we first started using this about 3 years ago, you just end up and it would just blast you with a whole heap of sort of text on text on text. This is also, I've got this in my account, so it's using my memory. So it's breaking things up quite nicely for me. If you're going to use a large language model, we want to sort of move away from this sort of backwards, have it put in a prompt in and then sort of asking it for a result and then asking it for a chat here. Think about using large language models, particularly those of you who've not used it before, as having our own personal assistant. All right. And if we've got our own personal assistant, how would we program our personal assistant to do something for us? And we introduced this thing called Prep, which was a guy called Dan Fitzpatrick, who's developed it further since then. But we like it. It's slow. It's simple. It just helps our students format their thoughts before they start putting their prompts into ChatGPT. It also helps with staff as well. So think about a prompt. Think about a role. Who are you? What do you want ChatGPT to do? Be explicit with your instructions and then give it some clear parameters and a bit of dual coding or shape coding there as well for our students. We put this on the board while they're using ChatGPT. So let's go in there. Let's have a quick look. I'm just copied and paste. Well, not from that one. Where did we go? Here's my Blue Peter bit. Right, there's my copy and paste. I'm going to copy this. We'll jump in and out. Sorry about jumping in and out of screens. Can get a little bit distracting. So here's my prompt. Okay, so I've just copied and pasted this. Support a year 10 student who is unsure about their future career options. So rather than letting students sort of tap away at things, I start roll. So I'm telling it, and students will then copy and paste this. You are a calm, neutral careers guidance assistant. I want it to give explicit instructions. Ask 3 simple questions to understand their interests. Suggest 3 broad career areas. Explain each area in 2 to 3 sentences and suggest 1 step they could take after school. Use short paragraphs. So I'm giving it some parameters. Avoid jargon. Keep tone encouraging but neutral and keep the response under 300 words. Like I say, when we first started using it, and this is 3 years old, this prompt now, I'd say you get an awful lot of text, and obviously use British spelling, getting away from those M dashes and those S's instead of Z's. If I press this now, so rather than give it a single instruction, it should act like a little chatbot, like a little helper. Okay, it's completely normal to feel unsure in year 10. Now, all of a sudden, our students, when they're using it, they've got that kind of interaction, a little bit more of an explanation. They've got some ins, they've got some questions. So rather than sort of having a whole heap of text to plow through, they can read them. We use Edge here so that our students can right click and then they can go in and they can read aloud the selection. They can also click on the dictate, and we've also got this voice feature which is developed over the last sort of 12 months or so, so they can have those verbal communications rather than sort of those text communications. But all of a sudden our students, they've now got more ins. It's breaking things up, it's giving them some suggestions. So rather than that blank page and a whole heap of information, it's kind of guiding them, it's leading them forward. We then move forward. We develop this thing called access. So within our parameters, we wanted to sort of think about who were our students. So if we put the next one in, again, Let's go to new chat. So again, I'm thinking about programming it, and I'd give these, yeah, and our students would copy and paste these. Support a year to 10 student, yeah, clear, neutral, begin with reassurance, which is obviously, yeah, building up that confidence. So we're starting to think about our students, knowing our students, keeping that human body in the building. Use bullet points, keep a reading age, even though our students were sort of 15, 16 in year 11, we were keeping a lower, keep it tone calm and keep it non-judgmental. Now all of a sudden I've got this little chat bot, yeah, that our students can engage with. It's more empathetic to their needs. Again, the students are kind of making sure that they know it's an AI generated information. We've talked about bias. We've talked about hallucinations. They've used all that information. So now when they're getting some information, okay, oh, here we go. So what do you enjoy most about school? So again, I can copy and paste, or I can just put single letters in. It's breaking things up into shorter functions for our students. What we did find out from that is then students would go, what about a recipe for cookies? Because let's face it, when we're creating our resources, we've gone down rabbit holes as well. Right, all of a sudden our students are off track. Our students are off track. As a teacher, I'm not aware of what my students are talking about as well. So I've got some safeguarding issues here. All right, intellectual property rules as well. Again, there might be lots and lots of different issues. So we started to look at safeguards and guardrails, making sure that the tone was locked to short, neutral, calm British voice. Sometimes when our students copied and pasted, there was bits that they were missing out, so the whole prompt wasn't coming over. We didn't have strict guardrails, even though we told students not to put personal advice on there. They might be sort of having conversations, and it might be giving them information. It might be a little bit misleading. We couldn't see those conversations. Domain limited knowledge, they were going off track. They were talking about all sorts of things. It might hallucinate. It might drift. We can add documents to it with a little plus sign, but again, students would end up having conversations outside that careers or outside design technology. We also found it supports pathological demand avoidance, anxiety profiles by avoiding pressurizing language, and I'll move on to this in a bit. And this is the best thing you've created, sir. And this was this little guy here. So we moved away from using large language models. Ooh, my apologies, that's my little link too, and we moved towards this little guy here. So this is the Mindjoy platform. This is the only AI platform that we pay for. Okay, we pay per student, but like I say, we've got a whole heap of resources: teacher resources, student resources, careers resources, and each one's got its own little dedicated chatbot. If I have a conversation with this now, it gives a nice little introduction. Hello, I'm FuturesBot. I help with AI. Also gives me a little bit of a warning. All right, so the user, the student's using it. It's an AI helper. It's not a human. It keeps referring back to me as the head of careers. So, and again, it gives them some short little sort of ins there as well. Do you want to try a fun quiz, or do you want to try your own thing? Okay. Students, again, they can listen to it. So it's got that text to speech, again, similar to ChatGPT. We've got that little discussion. So we can have a discussion now, and they can move away from that keyboard. If I sort of have a conversation, what do I do when I leave school? And it should now maybe guide them. Well, that's the whole idea. It should guide them. First, it helps to be clear. Give some examples, give some websites. They can get into this. What about recipes for cookies? Please, 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 when you're developing these things, use your students as guinea pigs. They love to try and break things. Our year 11 DT boys, absolutely amazing at trying to break our chatbots. What about recipes for cookies? And I'm hoping, rather than it give us recipes for cookies, I can't give recipes, but I can definitely use cookies to explore careers, jobs related to baking. So it brings the conversation back. Now, this is what the students see. What we can see here inside settings. And again, there you can see there's my prompt. There's my roles. There's my explicit instructions. This, in essence, is exactly what I've just shown you on a large language model, but I've locked it down. Okay. It's an impartial assistant. Your only role is to provide impartial careers education, so it can't wander off. I've also got a whole heap of websites that it directs it to. And these are ones that we've verified, rather than ChatGPT might throw them off to whatever website. We know that these are the ones that we would recommend. We've put some training documents here as well. So we've uploaded sort of neurodivergent learning strategies in there. So we've got information from British Dyslexia Association. We've got their guides. We've got National Autistic Society. We've got a whole heap of information there. So hopefully this chatbot is a little more sort of empathetic for our students and our students' need. It knows if it gets overload, for example, it will break it down into smaller chunks. The reason why our students said this is the best thing you've ever created, we started off with a careers chat. Sorry, I'm just aware of the time. Started off with a careers chat, and I said to these year 11s, what do you want to do when you want to leave school? And the first comment back was, I want to shoot people. And I thought, oh God, here we go. Comedians in the room, and what we're going to do, where we're going to go with this conversation. I gave him this chatbot, and for half an hour, totally lost him. To the point where now with this, you can see I've set up my classrooms. I can go in here and I can independently follow their conversations. All right. All the information is saved. So it's a closed system. So the information, I know the information is safe as well. Also, if students are chatting about things, so our year 7 students were writing stories, they had zombies, they had the word blood. I was getting safeguarding emails. I was getting red flag emails coming back to me as well. So I can monitor the conversations. Anyway, back to my year 11. I thought, oh, we must be looking at mountain biking. For about half an hour, he was just absolutely silent. And then when I went in and looked at his conversation, very dyslexic conversation, he left. He said, that's the best thing you've ever created. He came and found me about half an hour later at lunchtime. He wanted some information about Army College. I spoke to his English teacher a couple of days later. She went, yeah, pathological demand avoidance, part of his autism. 20 odd years in education, I still thought he was teenage boys. When she explained it, she just said for half an hour, he could ask whatever question he wanted to. It didn't matter about his spellings. If he spelt it incorrectly, it didn't red pennies. What it did was it gave the answer back. So if I go back in and I spell apprenticeships wrong, for example, let's go back into my chat. I'm an apprenticeships. Okay. If I spell it wrong, what it should do, rather than sort of pull him up on his spelling, is it should make a correct spelling in the response and the answer. There we go, apprenticeship. So it's that positive confirmation or affirmation all the time. It wasn't drifting off. It was giving him the information that he wanted to. He could ask all the silly questions that he couldn't ask out loud. He wasn't being interrupted by his peers. He didn't feel as though he had to act the fool. Okay, he just had everything that he needed right there, right then. Just to round up, I'd say, because I know I've gone on a bit, I do apologise. Impact on learners, higher confidence, more independent research. Our students are quite happy using chatbots now, and then when they move into 9, 10, and 11, they just naturally gravitate towards large language models. They're aware how to use them. They've been spoken about, sort of safe and ethical use. They're willing to give it a go. There's less fear about getting things wrong. Students, they're more happy to then use it to ask questions privately, for example, with careers before meeting a member of staff, coming from my one-to-one careers meeting. Teachers have reported improved engagement and calmer working atmospheres. Again, by giving chatbot to my DT students, little Johnny who might sit in the corner who needs that human interaction, my students can be getting on with their work, and I can go and spend that one-to-one time with my student rather than trying to sort of differentiate different work tasks and then trying to fight fires all over my classroom. Independent Schools Inspectorate about our careers program. Recent improvements in the creation of resources such as a careers chatbot demonstrate the leader's commitment to equipping pupils for life beyond school. So it was recommended by the ISI as well. Normally, if we had time, I'd get you to build your own. It's not clever science. It's just common sense. It's what we know of our students, of our young people. Clear step-by-step responses, structures, the prompts for clarity and dignity. Our students don't need reminding they're dyslexic. They don't need red pen. They don't need judgment. They just need that positive confirmation. Bots, they can be nice, safe spaces, particularly with students with pathological demand avoidance. I'm going to dip out of this. I'm going to stop sharing. I'll stick around for questions if you've got. I'm hoping I'm still within time and I don't get told off by Laura. But if you've got some questions, I'll tell you what I will do while we're chatting. I'm going to copy that prep prompt. If anybody wants to give it a go then. But if you've got questions, Please, please, please throw them at me.
Yeah, there are questions, don't you worry. And yeah, I don't think yeah, even my kids would agree I'm not really one for giving rows. So you're right, especially about time, because I'm totally time blind. So well done you for watching it, because I wasn't. Right. So, okay, so there are questions in the chat which I have gathered. Please, people, stick some more in. I'll kick us off with one that's been in the chat, but if anyone wants to put their hand up in our and take the mic, absolutely happy for people to do that. Do just stick a hand up and we'll come to you next. So one of the first questions that went in was from Kenji, and his question was, what percentage of pupils were using AI and chatbots to oh, now I'm going to just make sure we're prior to the introduction of your MindJoy platform, and how would you describe their experience and confidence with AI?
With AI, we've, like I say, we've kind of had a buy-in since the start. We've, like I say, with us making sure we've got safeguarding. We now have, so we also run some parent carer AI sessions, workshops, and sessions of an evening as well. So it's trying to get the whole community together. We've made sure that we have regular CPD with staff, because obviously staff need to make sure. We talk about systems quite a lot. If a student tries to use something and it doesn't work, or it works in one lesson and then doesn't work in another lesson, and the teacher doesn't know how to resolve that, so it might be assistive technology, or they might be using the chatbot and it doesn't work for the student. If the teacher's not on board as well, they'll soon lose confidence. So I say ChatGPT with our year nines and above, we started using 3 and a bit years ago, more or less, when ChatGPT came out. Obviously, with the safeguarding issues, we found it was more the fact that students were disappearing down rabbit holes. Generally, they were used to using assistive technology. They were used to using their text-to-speech, speech-to-text, mind mapping software. They were used to touch typing. We've built up slowly. The reason why we did year nines and above was because they were the only ones with laptops. Now all our senior students have laptops and our juniors have access to laptops. So it's making sure that they've got access to the technology as well. We've not had any issues with, so all our parents now sign consent that our students are using generative AI. Originally, it was year nines and above about specifically using ChatGPT. We've not had any parent issues. We've not had any student issues. Some students use it. And I had a comment the other day. One of the 2 year 11s, strangely enough, within the space of an hour, 2 different lessons, 2 different completely separate comments. Both just used the phrase, "I don't remember a time before ChatGPT." One of them, first period, was in assistive technology. He's created this little agent thing using ChatGPT. He wants to be a pilot. So it kind of it scrapes the internet of all the latest information that he needs about pilots and then sends him an email. So he's created his own little bot, and he was using that. And then the other student, high ability student, and she'd already in February had already planned out her revision and her exam study time for the June exams, and again using ChatGPT. It's become part and parcel of what they do. What we've got to do, and I mentioned right back at the beginning, this is to assist, to help, and it's to not make sure that students become reliant on that technology. They use it, they experiment, they develop it, they use it themselves. Again, we've got students that will go to ChatGPT and go, "Write me the story." Our teachers are aware, so we're starting to sort of find those trends. We're quite lucky with, like I say, maximum 12 students. You generally know your students. So if something's AI generated, you can kind of spot it quite quickly. So it's that kind of cheating element. Our students have kind of use it now without even, it's not even a big thing for them. It's a big thing for us because it's still relatively new. For our students, it's just the next thing you've given them in the next lesson. It's like, I don't know, design technology, we sort of build up over the years, and then sort of year 10s, year 11s can use a battery operated circular saw. We're not going to give that to the juniors. But when you give it to the year 10s or year 11s for their coursework, they use it because they know how to use the tools. It's just another tool for them to use. It's not kind of the big, shiny, great thing that, a lot of us see it. It's just become part and parcel of their life. That was a lot of waffle. Hopefully that covers the answer, though.
No, well, I liked it. I totally think that that's it. It's about if it does feel to us like, ooh, shiny, new, and we can do so much with it. But if you're building that into a package of, well, this is reading right, it's, text to speech or speech to text, and this is
We do a
mouth
use
mapping,
reading
and
right,
then
so don't worry
yeah,
about
so it's because I saw a little purple arrow and a
that.
little
Yeah, yeah,
purple. Um, if you're using all those tools, then it's just here's another tool. This is
yeah,
another one, and it does some of this. And so, yeah, I totally see it like that.
yeah.
Comment, people, comment. You did touch on somebody else's question, which was, do you require permission from students or parents? So, well done you. You didn't even know
Yeah.
that question was there, and you answered it.
We
So,
also, sorry, just to add to that as well, we also recently developed a student contract as well. So previous to that, we had contracts that the students signed about their use of their laptops, safe and use, but that included things like not eating and drinking nearby. They've also signed a consent order about using AI and using it safely and using it ethically. So if you've got any issues about misusing it, we've got something to fall back on. But I think it's more important that the students are aware how powerful this can be. You know, we talk about OpenAI. I've got 5 court cases, I think, at the moment with parents having taken them to court over the loss of their children and the information safeguarding issues around ChatGPT, and also Character AI as well is another company. So it's making sure that the students are aware of how powerful this tool is and making sure that they're aware to use it safely and ethically.
thank you. So adding to that question, I'm not seeing any hands up, so I'll just keep going with the questions that I have. One of the main ones is, oh, can you share your prompts? Well done. It's like you're reading my mind here. Are you able to share your prompts and your RAG documents? Also, I think somebody else has shared, can you share how you create a chatbot or direct to some resources on how to create one? That would be really helpful. That one came from Mary. Mike has asked, do you check all the conversations?
Do I check them? No. No, I am able to check them. This is it, because of the red flags as well. So if I've got 12 students all writing, generally, if I'm not sort of firefighting like a teacher would, I can sit and I just flick in and out. We've had it before, haven't we, where you can sit there and you can look at every student's screen, what they've got on their screen on your screen, so you can monitor it that way. I can do that. I can do that by sitting down. I like to be sort of in amongst my students. But yeah, I'd like to say I get red flag conversations. So, and I've got a slider as well. So for example, my year 7 boys were using it, and we get them to write a story. So simple little task for 2 minutes. They sit there in absolute silence, and I give them a topic. So the one we did yesterday was the door. For the next 2 minutes, they've got an open Word document. They can either touch type, or they can dictate, and they have to describe the door that they've got in their head. Now, during that time, it's creating that environment, that not disturbing, not tapping, allowing other people to learn. And then from that 2 minutes, we can then put that into, and we use Canva for AI image generation, and they can then put that into an AI image generator, and they get their image. Some students, it's absolutely amazing because it creates exactly what's in their head. Other students are going, well, why is that door green? My door's gold. Well, what did you put in the description? So it opens up that bigger description about communication and how to use, rubbish in, rubbish out. But it's also, if you're using that with AI, how are you communicating with other people? When you're talking with the person next to you, if you don't give the correct information, how do you expect that person to understand? So it helps to develop their literacy skills, their communication skills. Again, right at the beginning, it's assisting all the time. It's another tool in the toolbox.
Nice.
You mentioned about building chatbots. You saw inside my chatbot, all that is this thing here, this prompt. So I pasted it. If you want to copy and paste that, and you can change it. So instead of a support of 10 who's unsure about their future career options, you could ask it to, I don't know, explain photosynthesis is normally the one, isn't it, in science. And it, you can keep a lot of the same parameters as well, and just kind of copy and paste. if you're right, Laura, access framework, if I send you a copy of that as a PDF, and then you can distribute that out to people that are on here today, and that gives more sort of examples and more kind of a guidance and a breakdown. And then, as you saw inside my MindJoy chatbot, it's exactly the same. I've just built on it. And like I say, I give it my year 11 DT students, and they broke everyone. And now, to the point where now somebody asked me yesterday, and they said, yeah, but you can get around ChatGPT, can't you? If you want like how to make a nuclear bomb, you can say, oh, my grandma works in a nuclear plant, and it theoretically speak it, and you can kind of find ways around. Even that, my students have done it. So we've had to then go back and rebuild it and rewrite it. So it's in this continuous circle, continuous.
Great stuff. Okay, so another question is do you think your students prefer the text interaction, the speech to oh, I've noted that down and not written right. Do you think they prefer speaking to it and having it spoke back to them versus typing it in themselves? Do you find that more students use that than don't? Oh, I think you've frozen. Either that or I've frozen. Maybe. Not sure. Well, while we wait for an unfreeze, does does anyone else have any other questions? Because there are lots coming in, and what we can do is we can compile along with the video, we can compile a document with answers to these questions as well if people would find that useful.
Hi, sorry about that.
That's all right. Not to worry. In case you didn't hear the question,
Yep.
it was, do the students prefer the speaking and listening option versus the typing it and reading it option? Do you find more students go for that?
Our juniors absolutely love text to speech, speech to text, because it just opens up all sorts of avenues, particularly speech to text. When you've got lots of thoughts and ideas and you're struggling with communication, it's just amazing. Year 7, they become quite professional with it. Year 8, they're starting to get a little bit hesitant. Year 9, in a class where every student is dyslexic, they still don't want to be the most dyslexic. They're very, very aware. And our confident students, generally by year 9s, the ones that are still doing it, aren't necessarily dictating all of it. They're kind of flicking it on for one word here or one word there. And it's creating that environment. We'd never force technology on a student. I always use that analogy of a guitar. You know, if you can teach a guitar while they teach a child a guitar or a musical instrument while they're young, there'll be a time where they drift off, and they're not interested in it. But they know it's there, and hopefully later on in their life they'll come back to it. So never force technology on a student.
Yeah. Mike has also put, using chatbots regularly makes both adults and kids feel that the AI understands them and that they feel they have a real relationship with AI. I think you've kind of touched on this with what you've been saying, but the actual question is, how do you make the students understand how it works? Is that a continual thing, do you think?
Yeah. So as part of, I'd had an assembly the other day, and we talked about image generation. There was a lot of things with Grok recently, wasn't there? The bikini and the nudifications. So again, we have regular updates. The little chatbots, when they come on, the first little prompt is that I'm an AI helper, to make sure that and that's that constant confirmation, that affirmation. We don't like nice little happy chatbots. You know, the chatbot should be giving them the information. It's not about developing. We don't want it to be their friend and talk teenage language. So again, it's that not use of jargon. It is keep the information and keep it to the point. There's always that fear. We live with that constant fear. I think every school that's using AI lives with that constant fear of the first court case. We're doing everything that we feel that we can. We feel we've got a moral obligation as well. Our students are using AI, whether we teach it in schools or not. Snapchat AI, ChatGPT, our students are using it.
Yeah. Another question from Kenji. Mike, I see you've got your hand up, so I'll because I've started this, I'll finish it, and then you can absolutely have your question. Up to now, this is Kenji's question. Up to now, have you encountered anything that the AI chatbots haven't been able to do that you would like them to do?
So the chatbots we've got don't do image generation, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's bad when students need that backup. Generally, our students don't. So, but we use Canva as well. So we use dual platforms. Canva, we've got free accounts, education accounts as well. I just noticed somebody with Google Gems there as well. So we've just with Google, we've got the Google for Education. So we've got the free account there, so we can use Gems among staff. They're in 18, so we can't use those as chatbots for students. So yeah. So, like I say, it's good in the fact that students don't end up down rabbit holes. Sometimes students need that diagram, particularly with maths. So our maths chatbot is something that we've been trying to develop. And again, our students in year 10, year 11 really like ChatGPT because it gives them those graphs. If they put in an X and a Y and they change the numbers, then it changes the image for them. With free accounts, even though they're using school accounts, they've only got 3 images. So it uses it up quite quickly. But yeah, images is definitely the one.
Okay, Mike, unmute and go for it.
Going back to that point about relationships, I mean, everybody now is saying, the real issue with kids isn't going to be social media. It's going to be their relationship with AI. And, even the engineers, at the companies who make it, can't actually understand how it does some of the things it does. And you can say it's AI, but that doesn't mean people won't feel it really understands them and has a relationship with them. I understand David's built his chatbot not to do that, but as he said, there are loads of them around that exactly do that. And it comes back to this question about how do you explain to adults and kids how it's actually doing what it's doing, because it looks magical, it looks incredible. As I say, and even people who work in this field are arguing about, consciousness and general intelligence and all this. So how you can say to them it's not a person, it's AI, but they might decide, particularly neurodiverse students, they actually prefer AI to people.
Yeah, quite often. Yeah, it's purely and simply about knowing our students, knowing our young people, I'm afraid. Like I say, we've had these discussions with our students, and our students are using them off site. So we've built a full AI program, and that goes right down into the juniors. We've been talking with the juniors recently about image generation in order to be able to use it. We feel that if we teach them how to use it correctly, what we feel is correctly, and use it as an it. It's not a he, it's not a she, it's an it, it's a machine. And then, like I say, within the program, we make sure we talk about where the information comes from. We talk about bias, we talk about hallucinations. We're quite open with our students. I'll put, like, there was a recent one with The Guardian, the latest OpenAI court case, and we talk about parents taking OpenAI to court because their sons or their daughters have committed suicide by gaining information. They don't feel that there's safeguarding. So it's one of those, isn't it? It's now become a conversation where, similar to sort of sex education, isn't it? Where do you start? When's too young to have these conversations with students? I was doing image generation with the year 7s yesterday, and they were telling me about what they've been doing on ChatGPT the night before. And then that opened up a really nice conversation with them about, making sure that they know that the age limits, and the reason why there's an age limit, it's not to ban it because we don't want them using it. It's because there is a reason behind it. There's information that they can glean, that there's information that they can gain. It's making sure that parents and carers are having those same conversations. Like I say, we do interactive workshops with our parents and carers. It's my personal view is I'm not an evangelical kind of, AI is the be all and the end all. I don't see it as being it is. And I see the issues, but I do feel that if we have open conversations with our students, and quite often with our staff as well, we've got members of staff that, now that we're having conversations in the staff room, there was a lot of staff that were using it that didn't know whether they could use it, but they were using it and they weren't having the conversation because it was great, it was helpful for them, and they didn't want to be stopped. But now they know that they can use it, and how to use it. And it's conversation. I put it slap bang middle, assistive technology plus AI plus human in the building. And I mean, physically in the building and also in the building of AI. We need to make sure that the human element it remains in there, and that students, that we're having conversation with their peers, with their parents, with their teachers. I feel kind of education and communication is a way forward.
Love it. Another question we have is from Zara. Have any students or staff/parents pushed back from an environment or ethical point of view?
Environmental, no, we do build that in about the effects on the environment. We then get conversations about the environment, which become sort of great conversations about the environment, about the use of electricity, about the use of water for cooling as well. But we also then, strangely enough, we have conversations. I mean, one student actually told me, but we don't talk about chopping down trees to make books. So we build it into the program. We do talk to the students about it, and we do make sure that when it gets brought up at that time, that we're able to have those conversations. We've not had any environmental pushback on it now. Ethical point of view, as in with anything, students are going to push limits. Our young people will push limits. I've got 2 kids myself, and if they don't push limits, then I'm not doing my job as a parent. But it's how you push limits. So yeah, as an ethical point of view, no, we've not. We're more the other way. It's kind of, we teach them how to cheat. We teach them how to write, an essay, how to write a persuasive piece for English, or how to write a creative story. And even there, they've worked out, that if they write it, and ask it to rewrite it in the style of a 15-year-old dyslexic student, it writes it with the spelling mistakes in it. They've worked out how to do that. So now we're having conversations with them by showing them. We don't feel that we're showing students how to do things that they wouldn't work out themselves, but it means we can have those conversations, and then we can say, this is right, this is wrong. When you're doing your coursework, when can you use it in coursework? When can you not use it in coursework? It's more that, students can't use AI in the exams. So that's that. We make sure that they're not reliant on it. But a lot of them like to use it independently in order to be able to prepare for exams. They'll write a story, they'll feed it in, they'll ask for feedback. They'll feed it in the rubric as well. We don't get them to do that in school, but they've worked out that they can do that. We never use AI in order to be able to assess students' work and give them formal or summative feedback. That's, students shouldn't be judged on that. But the students can use the English reader. Once they finish their story, it then asks them the same questions that a teacher would ask them. Do you have a clear beginning, middle, and end? Yes, I do. Do you have a metaphor? What's a metaphor? Oh, a metaphor. This is an example. Can you think of an example that you can put in yours? So it has that conversation backwards and forwards like a teacher would have. But in essence, we're all doing exams, and they've not got it in the exams.
Nice. Okay, I'm just scanning for any more questions. Ooh. Sarah seemed thanks. She feels that's a much healthier relationship now. Yeah, I do. I agree.
Cool. I love that statement. I've learned everything, and I know about beating Turnitin AI detection from students. Yeah. Have the conversations. It's amazing what we learn. Students find ways around. They've got time to play with it. We don't. We've got a job. Do you know what I mean? We use it to do our job. They'll play with it, and they'll come back, sir, have you seen this? This is what I've done. How did you do that? And it's very empowering for them as well to know that, that they know something that you don't know. It is very empowering.
Oh, absolutely. I do that with my kids. Even if I do know how they did it, I lie and tell them, oh, and I act like they know, because that's essentially, as a child, what you want to hear. You want to go, look, I know more than you. And you go, oh, really? I know that anyway, but that's fine. Fab. Okay. And I do liken it a lot to that whole consent relationship and sex education and stuff like that, because it is like you need to be able to have these conversations to empower students to be able to make the right decisions. If you're not having the conversations about things, how are they going to know? They'll go and just play to break it, and then you're not there in the conversation. So yeah, I love it. Anyone else got anything that they would like to? Oh, Kenji, you've got your hand up. Go for it, mate.
Yeah, David, hi. Thanks for the talk. It's been really good, and especially the fact that you're doing this as a kind of positive way to introduce the use of AI, which is tends to be the exception these days. And just wondering, I posted a link to recent Pew research that came out last month, and there's a clear indication that younger people are interacting with services like character AI, which you mentioned, which still tends to be the most popular AI tool within that demographic. And there is that worry that younger people are looking for emotional support, leaning in to these models and the relationship part of it. Do you think that when we introduce chatbots in that school context, we're kind of introducing it as a gateway drug to things like character AI, which are not so well scaffolded or supported when it comes to these kind of relationship and other issues that people form with AI?
Um, it is hard because, like I say, as a parent as well, I try and take the emotion out of it as a teacher. I mentioned about my year 7 students. You know, we were using safe and ethical use of AI yesterday with image generation within Canva, and they were having conversations about ChatGPT, completely unaware of what the age limits were. So by doing A, I then have a conversation about B, you know, and then they're very sort of receptive to the reasons why. You know, why is it a third? Why can our year 9s use it and I can't use it? Well, because, you know, we're very open about these conversations. So I try and take the emotion out of it and just see it as an opportunity to have these conversations with our young people. We sort of we read, you know, we read a lot about radicalization, for example. So, you know, we're just south of London, and we do quite a bit on my brain's gone now, county lines, you know. So if you're, do you want to make stranger danger, do you want to make our young people aware of conversations and aware of not opening up to strangers in the streets, or do you want to scare the bejesus out of them so that they don't want to go out into the streets themselves? And I think that's the same with AI. Our students, our young people are using it. So if they're open and honest and have these conversations, then hopefully they're in a safer place rather than sort of sitting at home experimenting upstairs, having, you know, not being able to talk to mum and dad either because mum and dad aren't aware of it, you know, and not having anybody at school to talk about it either. If we can open up conversations and if students have got questions, they've got somewhere to come and hopefully have conversations with people that will give them some reasonable information. I say we're very open about our students. You know, I've got a slide that I'll put up with the latest, you know, issues regarding cheating or you know what's going on at Alpha School or like say to court. I don't think it's detrimental to have those conversations.
That's brilliant, and I really like the fact that you're bringing it out into the open, into a safe space for discussion. I'm just going to, apologies, Laura, sneak in a last question.
Yeah.
Is there any is there anything that the students have used AI for that you weren't expecting, like a positive thing that you just thought, oh, that's an amazing use of it? Um, Often
Yeah.
the best ideas come from our students, so.
Yeah. We've started to do a bit of vibe coding, Canva code, and some of the stuff that they create, and we can switch it off and on. So we, like say, with our year 11s, I'll just tell you one story. One of my year 11s last year, left in the summer, emailed me on a Saturday to tell me that she'd got a job. So because I was sat there doing my marking, I emailed back just to say, "Oh, great! That was it. I've got a job using ChatGPT. That was it." Right, okay, share me the chat. She shared me the chat. Anyway, what she'd done is she'd gone on and she'd used ChatGPT to do a search locally for any jobs, any summer jobs for a 16-year-old. She'd then used ChatGPT to organize it for her in order to be able to put them in like a hierarchy according to her interests. She wrote down what kind of things she was interested in. She then used it in order to be able to research those companies. She then used it to help her write her personal statement. Now our students are shown how to use it, and then they're shown, we get them to use it using ChatGPT, and then we share them, and they realize that they all look the same. So what's the benefit in using it? But you can use it to help structure it. So we'd use that in class. She then used it on her own. We then used, because we're a Microsoft school, there's a presenter coach on there. So she'd written the questions, she'd come up with some answers. She's used ChatGPT to have a conversation about suggested answers and responses. She'd used it and programmed it to give some suggestions that might be more personal that she could use in her responses, things that she hadn't thought about. She then recorded herself on PowerPoint, presenting to herself to make sure she was prepared. She then went and got a job. She successfully got a summer job. If you look at that ChatGPT conversation and nobody had told you what she was doing, you wouldn't have a clue, because it's very, very dyslexic, disorganized. What does that mean? How does it? But it made sense to her, and she was able to organize all her thoughts and get everything down, and it structured it for her, and she ended up with a summer job at the end of it.
It's brilliant.
Oh, I love
Thanks for
that.
sharing that story.
That is amazing. And I have to just give a big shout out to Kath in the chat, who says that her head is now imagining a Gen AI series of Charlie Says public information things. I'm so here for that. Like unbelievably, I'm so here for that. But we only have 4 minutes left, people. 4 minutes left. So that just leaves me to say thank you, a massive thank you to David for coming along and just inspiring us, informing us, just reassuring us that, it's AI can be positive with our students. So yeah, thank you so much. If anyone has anything that they want to add to this, we can keep the conversation going within the team space, or of course on our Jisc mail list. Do put your suggestions or your stories out there onto those lists so we can all have a read of them. As David said, we will, if he passes me information, we will get it out to you on those channels. I'm happy to do that. I'll check that there aren't any other questions that we've missed in my frenzy of trying to say questions and add to them myself. And we'll get some answers to those too. But yeah, thank you so much, David, for coming along. It's been a fantastic session. Really appreciate it. And I can see from the chat other people have too. So yeah, everybody have a great start to March, and we'll see. Oh, actually, yeah, well, I think we might see you in April. I have to work out when the Easter holidays are and if we can still do a drop-in. I need to call them drop-ins. But yeah, thank you so much for coming along today, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. All right.
Thanks, folks.
Take care.
Someone's mentioned as well, they'll see us at DigiFest. If you're coming to DigiFest in Birmingham next week,
Yes.
we have some activities on, but we've also got a community meetup on the Wednesday lunchtime. So come along and
Wednesday
see. Oh,
lunch, yeah.
there'll be loads of us there.
So yeah, shout out in either Teams or the lists again if you're coming to DigiFest, because it would be really good to meet people and say hello in person. And yeah, the lunchtime session on the second day is our official meetup session. All right.